Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Zen and Zazen class. Today I will continue to talk about Fukan Zazengi, Dogen Zenji's instructions for Zazen. But before that, let's sit together for 30 minutes, and then I will talk and you can share your thoughts if you like.
前面还是先坐禅，然后后面继续讲那个普劝坐禅仪啊。
Thank you very much for joining. Before we started, I told Xuan that yesterday I gave a talk in Shikoku, that's an island in the southwest of Osaka, and I forgot the bell that I usually ring before and after Zazen. So today I used this thing. I think it's from Nepal, but I'm not quite sure how to produce a good sound with it. But they're gonna send me the bell, so next week we're gonna go back to the bell. Also, usually I have this small clock that I look on, and because I didn't have it, you heard this dog barking. That was my iPhone, the timer. Be that as it may, I want to return to the Fukan Zazengi. How can I share the whole? Share desktop. What happens when I do this? Now you could see. On the left side, you see Dogen's original, which is written in classical Chinese. On the right side, you see the English translation from the Antaiji homepage. The first 4 sentences I talked about a month ago. Basically, they say, well, you're already there. E. Cummings said, truth is here. You don't have to look for it here or there in other places. It's useless to follow a certain path, because what you're looking for is already what you are. You are the truth. And then follow two sentences, or actually it's this one sentence here, which is a quote from the Xinjinmei or Xinjinming in Chinese, an old Chinese text. It starts with the words, the highest way is not difficult at all, as long as you refrain from picking and choosing, as long as you refrain from making distinctions, which is basically also in line with what Dogen Zenji says at the start of the Fukan Zazengi. And then in the Shinjinmei, it says, if you make only the slightest dualistic distinctions, heaven and earth will separate. There's going to be a huge gap like that between heaven and earth. And I think these distinctions that the Shinjinmei is talking about are like the distinction between me and the world, between yesterday and today, the distinction between right and wrong, good and bad. At a certain age, we learn to make these distinctions, and it's important to orient ourselves in the world to be able to make these distinctions. But what we lose is that we lose to see reality as a whole, this one moment before it separates, this one moment that we live right now. And actually, when we see things, we hear things, usually we say, well, I here see, for example, you over there on the screen. I can't hear you now, but you can hear me. But actually, there's only this one reality of vision appearing right now, sound appearing right now. And we only later construct, oh, well, there's me, the subject, and I see your faces over there. There's me here, and I hear the sound that Muho is making over there. But actually, that's something that we construct later. The reality that we experience right now, before making this distinction between me and the world, is one. Maybe first until here, maybe Xuan-san can translate and then I continue.
老师其实前面他就是做了一个复习，就是我们之前讲的，前面上次课我们其实主要讲的是信心明，就是上面前面这一句，然毫厘之差，天地悬隔，违顺才起，纷然失心。其实这句话是从信心明来的，上次课讲了，他讲的其实是就是我与这个世界，昨天和今天，还有对与错之间的区别。只是毫厘之差，就是这些毫厘之差有了这些区别，那我们在这毫厘之差，失去了什么呢？其实失去的是现在，就是在你有分别心之前的现在，就好像我们现在在上课，然后老师在说话的同时呢，你听到老师在说话，你看到老师在镜头之前的同时，其实老师也看到你，它发生的时候是一起发生的。但是我们总是在听完说完之后有了一个分别，就是我听到了老师在说话，我在听。其实是在这个一起发生的时候，这个分别之前的那个时候，我们好像失去的是那个区别。然后老师其实大概刚刚就是把前面的上次讲的复习了一下，然后老师现在继续往下讲。
And I think last time I said that Dogen Zenji puts a little different spin, I think, here on this sentence, if you make only the slightest distinction. Zen often emphasizes non-distinction, non-dualistic thought. But Zen is not the only tradition where this is emphasized. For example, in India, there's the Advaita Vedanta tradition, which means non-dualistic wisdom. Actually, last year I had the chance to visit an Advaita Vedanta Center in Germany. And there they told me that they love the Shinjin Me very much because it expresses their idea of non-dualism. But there's an important difference between Zen and Advaita Vedanta, at least how I perceived it. I guess there's lots of different teachers. But one difference, the main difference, is that Advaita Vedanta usually places not much emphasis on practice, if it places emphasis on practice at all. Because, well, why should we practice? We are already there. Enlightenment is here. There's nothing to attain. And for Dogen, that's where actually dualism comes into play. When somebody says, and Dogen Zenji, of course, he didn't know about Advaita Vedanta philosophy, but actually at his time in Japan, the Buddhists were using the same logic. They said, well, according to Mahayana Buddhism, we are already Buddhas, we are already enlightened. Why should we bother to practice Zazen? Why should we bother to make an effort? And, well, that's dualism, isn't it? We say, I'm already enlightened. Why should I practice? And for Dogen, it's actually the practice that's a manifestation of enlightenment. So that's the next sentence. I'm going to switch to the Japanese that you can also find on the Antaiji homepage. This is the sentence in Japanese, Old Japanese. Tatoi, which means, well, for example, or granted. Granted that you can be proud of your wisdom. Eni hokori, go ni yutaka ni shite. Granted, you can be proud of your wisdom and you even have enlightenment. Go is satori. You might even have enlightenment. Betchi no chitsu o e, do o e. How is it here in the English on the Antaiji homepage? Suppose you are confident in your understanding and rich in enlightenment, gaining the wisdom that knows at a glance, attaining the way and clarifying the mind. So suppose you got this enlightenment, you got that wisdom, kokoro o akiramete, shoten no shiki o koshi, and your aspiration reaches the heaven. Actually, the Chinese here means you're piercing through the heaven. Your aspiration is so high that you can make a hole through the heavens. This one I find funny. Nitto no henryo ni shouyo suto iedo mo hotondo shushi no katsuro o kikesu. How do they have this in English? This is my translation. I think I got this English translation from somewhere else on the internet, but I changed this. Nitto literally means, well, to be maybe somewhere in the entranceway, playing around in the entranceway. That's how some people translate it. But this character, the second character here, also means head. And this means to enter. So the head is stuck in there, in the entranceway. Your head is stuck, but you haven't found the way to life, the living way, to get your body out. So when you say, we're already enlightened, why should we practice? Your head is stuck in theory, but your body is not expressing it. You're not living it out. And that's dualism. That's dualism, when you say, well, there's nothing to attain. But you're only excusing yourself for being lazy. Okay, maybe so much for the time being.
老师讲的下面一句，就是我看啊，直饶会夸悟风，或撇地智通，得道明心，举冲天之气，入头边亮虽逍遥，几亏缺出生活路。That's Chinese 就是这句话老师
I switch back to this Chinese, sorry.
yeah, I have it on my
Now I erased it.
老师其实刚才做了一个比较，就是他把禅和我们印度的那个维丹塔，中文翻译成费檀多哈，应该是维丹塔，他做了一个比较，是有一些不一样的。其实禅修或者禅里面讲的这个不分别之心，而维丹塔里面其实也讲了，就是它是有一些一样的地方，比如它也有这些不分别，不要区别这个意思啊，但是也有不一样的地方。像道元禅师，我们学的就是道元禅师哈，道元禅师他所讲的呢，就是要强调练习，就是你在练习的时候呢，就是入定的，我们或者我们说你到达萨玛迪哈，但是费檀多里面没有强调练习，就是因为我们你和他是在一起的，所以你本身就是这个样子，他没有强调一定要练习。然而道元禅师他强调了练习，但是同样的也是有这样一个问题，就是为什么我们要做禅呢？为什么还要付出努力的呢？如果你已经是有佛性了，你已经是你本身就是和他在一起的，不要分别的，那为什么我们还要练习呢？然后后面这句话其实解释的就是这个答案啊。后面就是直饶会夸悟风，好像就是老师说了，大概意思就是说，如果有的人，比如说，有的人用就是在夸你哈，你已经很有悟性了，或者说你已经入定了，你应该是得到了智慧的，而就是你应该是得到了智慧的，然后呢，就是这个经验呢，让你可以像他写的是举冲天之气啊，就是你这个经验，如果你已经是有了这个智慧哈，你应该是可以通天的，就是冲破天，通天的啊，就是很自在的。然后后面那一句呢，入头边凉虽逍遥，什么意思？就是这个入头啊，这个入口的意思，你的头好像在入口处卡住了，但是你的身体却没有找到，你的身体是在外面的，就是这句话是这个意思啊。什么意思？就好像我们就是你的头，虽然你的头要进去，在入口处卡住了哈，我们没有找到生活的方法，你应该怎样生活？你的身体是没有出来，没有自由的，就好像我们的头卡到了理论当中，你好像是明白了，但是你的身体却在外面。你只是说啊，我们本身就是没有分别的，我们本身就是已经入定的哈，我们不要练习。其实这些都是在给自己为你的懒惰找理由。就是你的头虽然卡在理论的这个入口处，但是身体却在外面。后面大概写是这个意思。
Okay, thank you for translating. Today, I want to explain up to here. Next time, Dogen Zenji starts mentioning the actual examples of the Buddha practicing 6 years before he sat down under the Bodhi tree, or Bodhidharma, who brought Zen from India to China, who sat 9 years at Shaolin Mountain. And then he goes on to explain how actually you do it, how Zazen is practiced. But today, if you have anything you would like to ask or would like to share, you're welcome to do so. Any questions Any comments from your side? Nothing? Already gained enlightened. Your aspiration is reaching the heavens. Genjo-san, you're raising your hand.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't get it. You said that's heuristic during the explanation. Why do we have to practice because we are so already enlightened? And you said it's dualistic, and I couldn't get it. What do you mean? What do you mean? Could you please?
It's dualistic. If you say, I'm enlightened already, so I choose to not practice. Why should I practice? Practice is too hard, or practice is a waste of time. Why should I make that effort? Isn't that a dualistic way of thinking? Like, if I have the choice between practicing and not practicing, I prefer not to practice because that sounds easier. Why should I make the effort if I'm enlightened already? That sounds dualistic to me.
Picking and choosing, you mean?
Yes, picking and choosing.
I got it. Yeah. Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Schwanzan, please.
Yeah, Chiaki-san's question remind me. It's often happen in yoga, like like some of people they how to say travel when they travel. They say, oh, I just enjoy how to say enjoy the traveling, and I don't have to do the practice. If I enjoy my trip, that's the yoga. That's the real yoga. No, that's not. You have to stand on your mat, do your practice. It's not like, oh, I go. Everything is yoga. Or you can say everything is Zen practice. But if you don't really sit down, do Zazen, it's the same like yoga. If you don't really do your daily practice, then yoga is yoga. You is you. You have no connection. There's nothing you with yoga. You just being yourself. That's an excuse for you're lazy. You don't want to bring your yoga mat, or you're just being lazy when you're traveling. Yeah, just reminding me that.
Thomas is raising his hand. You're still in mute. You're still mute.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Excuse me at first for my terrible English. It sounds for me very easy when somebody is saying you are enlightened. You have the body, Buddha nature, you have to sit, you have to practice, and that's it. It can, I think it's not only depend from sitting or from Zazen, it's also how you are living all day. It's bad. Yeah. From your lifestyle, what you are bringing on the outside, or I'm completely wrong. It sounds for me so easy. You are enlightenment, you have the Buddha nature, and you have to sit only, and that's it.
Of course, it's not only about sitting, like eating, doing the dishes, going to work, spending time with your family. That's also practice. But again, there's this danger then that you say, well, if everything's practice, then I do what I like best. If cooking is just as good a practice as sitting, then, well, today I prefer to cook. And if eating is just as good a practice as cooking, then I let somebody else cook and I wait until the meal is ready and somebody else can do the dishes. That's their practice. Good for them if they can practice. So we're very clever if it comes for looking for excuses to do just what we like. And of course, it's right that Zazen is not only sitting. So when we sit here for 1 hour on Mondays together, or 30 minutes, and then we talk, of course, that's also practice. But the rest of the week, every hour is just as good a chance to practice. But just because anything can be practice, it doesn't mean that it doesn't really matter how you spend your time. So I think at the end of the day, it's good to return to the cushion and really check if you're only telling yourself that whatever you do is practice, or if you let go of your preferences and just are in the moment. So I agree with Dogen Zenji that, at the end of the day, it's good to learn from examples like Buddha Shakyamuni or Bodhidharma. If they had the time and they thought it necessary to sit for several years, then maybe it's a good idea if we try the same. But of course, as you said, that's not enough. Just sitting is not enough. There's also the question, so what do I do then when I leave the house? How do I manifest enlightenment when I interact with other people? Of course. That's also important.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Anything else? Aiko, please.
Yeah, I have a question to this. When you leave the house, it's important what you do then. What is the Buddha way when you leave the house? What is the practice? What is it?
It would be easy if there would be some kind of manual for bodhisattvas. Of course, the answer is to live as a bodhisattva. But how exactly does a bodhisattva act in each situation?
Well, I have that in a book. I have the bodhisattva way.
Yeah. Like in Tibetan Buddhism, you have Shantideva, and also in the Shobogenzo, there's a chapter on 4 ways of the bodhisattva, like giving, using kind words, cooperating with others, making no differences. And Shantideva says some very beautiful things in Tibetan Buddhism. But then the question, it's like a little bit like the Sermon on the Mountain by Jesus in the New Testament. Those are very beautiful words, and it would be nice if we could live up to them. But can you always do that from morning to night?
But it's like there is this practice of kindness and compassion and love.
Yes.
So, but still, then in the practice of Zazen, is there also kindness and love and compassion in that? I don't see it. For me, it's more like I don't know.
Like there's these 4, how do you say in English, mind states. In Japanese, it's jihi kisha. I forgot the Sanskrit or Pali terms. Well, one is metta and karuna, love and compassion. And then the third one, I forgot the Indian word, means to have joy when other people experience something good, experience joy. And the last one, I think, is pronounced upeksha, which means equanimity. And Zazen is closest to the last one, being always in a state of equanimity. But I think Zazen helps us also to nourish the other minds or hearts. So if you try to always practice love and compassion from day to night without having time to return to the cushion, I think you would run out of battery. I think, to use a simple example, Zazen helps us to charge the battery of compassion. It would be nice if we could even use this little time, for example, these 30 minutes on Monday. If we have time to sit now, why don't we go out into the world and to do something to change things for the better? Well, I think we would run out of battery. And also what can happen is that this practicing love and compassion becomes another game. We don't really do it out of love and compassion, but it's also a way for us to collect points. And the nice thing about Zazen is that it's almost impossible to collect points with that. For example, right now, as you do, we come together and sit together, but if somebody asks us, well, what do you do for the world? What do you do for society? Well, nothing actually. But that's also the nice thing about Zazen. There's really no ground to be proud. I do so much Zazen. Well, for whom? So I think that's a nice lesson that Zazen teaches us. And when you do something good, of course, that's just as important, maybe even more important. But then you can say, I did so much. Look at me, almost like Mother Teresa. But then you just have this big ego, the bodhisattva ego. So I think sometimes it's good to even take a break from bodhisattva practice and just return on the cushion.
Okay, thank you.
Sebastian also raises his hand.
Yes, the same topic. What do you think of the 3 minds of the Tenzo Kyokun as a manual for everyday life bodhisattva practice?
That's a nice guide, like the 3 mind that you mentioned: joyful mind, being happy to be here and being happy to be able to serve others, for example, by cooking, for example, by bringing the garbage out. Then the second mind is the old mind, which means parental mind, not comparing yourself to the others all the time as if they were your rivals in the game, but thinking about them as a mother would think about her only child, her baby. So when you cook, sometimes, like for example, if we share tasks in the family with our partner, now I already cooked 4 days this week, now it's your turn. Or I cooked, you should at least wash the dishes. There's always this comparison. And we always ask for something in return. I did so much, so how much do you do for me? And well, old mind is the mind that lets go of that kind of comparison. And then big mind is high as a mountain and wide and open like the sea. So the sea takes on all rivers. Those are the 3 minds in the Tenzo Kyokun. And of course, those are important. But in the Fukan Zazen, Dogen's emphasis is on something else, on just letting go and being here right now. So there's kind of 2 tracks in Dogen Zenji's teaching, and I think in Buddhism as a whole. One is to let go of everything and just sit, manifest Zazen with this body. And then the other is when you get up, there's so many suffering beings out there waiting for your help. And you should open your ears and hear for your cries. And what you mentioned today is kind of the second aspect, which is not so much emphasized in the Fukan Zazen, but for example, in the Tenzo Kyokun that you mentioned, and in other works of the Shobo Genzo. And both are important. But what I would say, and I did that, for example, also on my YouTube channel, when you practice as a bodhisattva, for example, at work, in the family, in society, forget about Zazen. So don't use Zazen as an excuse to, for example, retreat from your family. Maybe there's a problem in the family. Don't use your Zazen practice or your yoga practice to say, well, now I need time for myself and escape. But on the other hand, when it's time for practice, don't use your family or work or your engagement in society to excuse yourself from practice. So when it's time for sitting or when it's time for yoga, forget about the world. But when you are out in the world, forget your practice. Forget your practice during the rest of the day. And when it's time for practice, forget the world. And in Zazen, it's about this forget the world aspect.
Mm-hmm. Would you say there's a connection between Zazen and, I think there's a connection between Zazen and the big mind? Would you also say it's true, or would you see there are really two different things, just sitting on the one hand and then go outside and maybe orient with the three minds?
I think it's true that sometimes in Zazen it helps these three minds, not only big mind, but also the other two, to, how do you say, sprout, like blossoms. Sometimes Zazen helps these blossoms to open up and sprout. So in that way, there's a connection, or that say sometimes it helps to charge the battery of big mind, joyful mind, parental mind. So it's not that these are completely disconnected. But still, I would say during Zazen, I mean, if it helps you to charge, of course, but that's not why we do Zazen. During Zazen, just sit. And when you're out there practicing joyful mind, parental mind, big mind, forget about Zazen.
Thank you.
Anything else that you would like to ask or share? Thomas, another one, please.
Yeah, I think for me, it's impossible to go outside and be and have compassion and kindful and whatever to everybody. Sorry, for me, it's not possible. So what's the way?
Maybe you start with only one person. One person at a time is enough. You don't have to love all 8, how do you say in English, is it billion? 8 billion people, and then you also have to love the dogs and cats and the cows and the sheep and even the small insects that bite you in the summer. Of course you can't love them all equally, but be kind to one person. And if you don't find a person out there, then be kind to yourself. Start with yourself and then be kind to another person, a second person, a third person. You don't have to be kind to everybody right from the start. It's impossible. But be kind to one person at a time.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Maybe I couldn't answer them all, but next week we meet again. Next week it's about Sawaki Roshi, but of course questions like this about practicing outside of Zazen, after Zazen, also welcome. Today, as it's already 9:10 here in Japan, I would like to end this sitting, but next week, same time, same space, hosted by Xuanzang. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for translating. And thank you everybody for coming. Have a nice week and see you again.